Hey everybody, Ridgely here, your groove growth guy, and I'm super excited about today's presentation. It's my honor and privilege to introduce a very dear friend of mine, a mentor, bro, partner, etc., and the CEO of Build Your Body Like a Business. You'll hear more about that later. Mike Sparkman, so great to have you on Groove Growth. Pleasure to be here.
Ridgely, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to be here as well. I'm so excited to finally meet the Groove community and spend some time with you.
Well, I know you've been very much a student of the principle that you're going to share with us, and it is Goals and Dreams Month, and we're all getting after our goals, setting our goals, preparing our goals, but actually in the execution of them, which is of course far more important than whatever's on an index card or a piece of paper or in my tablet or my mobile phone, is where what you're going to be sharing with us really comes into play, which is the 80-20 rule, something that you've basically lived your life by and came upon it and it changed your life. Give us a little bit of background. What was going on before the 80-20 rule? Why has it made such a big difference? I know we're going to jump into a full presentation here momentarily.
Yeah, I think for me, as you'll hear a little bit when we get into the whole flow of this, is that I've been a CEO of many multiple $100 million companies, and probably 15 years ago, at maybe the peak of some of the growth and things going on, I was stretched really thin. I was stressed out. Family life was stressed out. And I just thought that's what went with the territory, with all the things that I was doing. Mm-hmm. Then we'll get into, I read a couple of books, and it really changed my mindset. It changed my outlook. It changed how I thought about doing things. And I really became a student of 80-20. And I think as we get into this, some people will say, well, I've heard of 80-20. What I've found is that a lot of people say, oh, I understand 80-20. They just can't articulate it. And there's so much more to just those numbers, 80 and 20. So for me, once I started to apply it, as we'll get into with some of these ideas and principles, I was able to do so much more with less. I found happiness by doing what I loved and allowing myself to not feel like I had to do everything for everybody 100% of the time. So I'm excited to share both my journey and how I have really notched out and looked at this to live my life, to manage my life, my relationships, my finances, my business, everything.
Well, I want to put a quick shout out to what it's meant to me, because we've been in conversations now for a long time about this. And it has absolutely made a monster impact on my life as well. It's like when you get it, when you get the 80-20 rule and begin to internalize it and apply it, it's almost like magic. So we're going to jump in for everybody's benefit. I hope you have your pens and paper ready, or your tablet, wherever you're taking some notes, because this is life-changing, game-changing, business-changing information that you are going to be able to apply effective immediately after this presentation. Like, it literally can affect the way you make decisions and move forward, the actions that you take, effective right after you learn about this. Mike, so let's jump in. Let's just jump into the 80-20 rule. And I know the topic of your presentation, and we're going to share some slides and some really valuable information. I guess it's time to kind of jump into all that stuff, right?
Let's jump in. Yeah. And I think because it's Dreams and Goals Month at Groove, I really hope this can be a tool in really applying and seeing how you can reach your dreams and goals for 2022.
Yeah, which is really important to all of us. I mean, I think that realistically, we want to be the kind of people who are doing and living the life, and we have to have tools to be able to do that. So let us jump in. How to live the 80-20 life. Only a few things matter. Talk to us.
That's right. So we're going to jump into everything 80-20 today. And when I say only a few things matter, when we really get into the depth of this, I think people will see that in any life, in any situation, people are busy, people are distracted, people are going a lot of different ways. But if you just step back, and when we get into some of these principles, and if you trust in the process, and what's really fascinating to me about 80-20 it's not just somebody's idea. These are laws. These are principles. These have been proven by physicists, economists around the world of how this whole disruption theory means that everything is not equal. And so that's, I won't get into the physics. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a scientist, but I've been able to, my way is analyze, research, and apply. So I take a lot of this stuff and then I apply it to how I can benefit from it.
And you ask a very big question, which is, other than our health, what is the most valuable asset we all have? And I'm wondering, what's everybody thinking out there? And obviously you can make comments, Groovesters, but think about that. Other than our health, what is the most valuable asset we all have? And Mike, you would say that that is, what is it?
Time.
Yeah, right. Time. So tell us about that.
So I didn't always put my health as my number one asset. It was other things. But now my health is everything. And I put my health first above everything because I know where we are in our age, Ridgely, we won't say, but if we can be healthy, be fit, it makes so many differences in our life. It just creates so many other good things to happen. But then when you think of time, again, time is precious. We're not here that long. You know, it's really about what you want. I always ask somebody when we're talking and they're going about, you know, this and that and talking about problems. I always say, what do you want? Mm-hmm. Then it's about, how do I get what I want? And if you think of time, every week, every month, every year, every quarter, it just flies by. It just, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, shoot, it's 2022. Mm-hmm. But it's what you do with that time. Are you happy? Are you satisfied? What's your purpose? What is your cause to create things, to good things to happen? And that's so important, I know, for the entire Groove community, entrepreneurs, business people, wanting to give back, wanting to support. If you can figure out to have more real time that for things you love and you want to do, I think that makes a big difference in everybody's life.
And so let's just jump in then to the 80-20 principle. So what is the 80-20 principle? Let me explain it to us. We have a slide about this. Let's talk about this slide. Tell us how it's made a difference in your life, because obviously when we're talking about time, 80-20 comes right into that.
It's everything about time. So I'm not going to, there's a whole story around the genesis of this. But I'm just going to hit the high points today. And so basically, there was an Italian economist named Pareto. And this is all, you may recognize this as the Pareto Principle. But he was an economist and a physicist. And so through other ways he was evaluating the economy, he realized and proved that 80% of the wealth in Italy was held by just 20% of the population. So he began to extrapolate that further and further and further. And then in the 1950s, there was another person, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He kind of condensed, consolidated, and proved more of these principles and now laws that, in this case, 20% of the population owned 80% of the wealth. So that is a recurring theme throughout 80-20. And we'll get more into that. So what really affected me was this guy, Richard Koch, The Principle of 80-20. It was published back in '97. So I would say if you have the book, read it again. If you don't have the book, I would certainly encourage you to get it. There's I think more specifically, there's another one he wrote called Living the 80-20 Life, which gets into all aspects of life. But this is where my life changed in terms of more for business, because I think I was doing a lot of the things that he was saying. But once I realized 20% of my sales, 80% of my sales came from 20% of my customers, 20% of my workforce was doing 80% of the work. You can play with these things all over the place. And then I researched them and I studied them, and it was true in my business. So I knew that if I just did what was focused on in these particular areas, I could get results that were incredible. And that's what started to happen. So the whole basis of this is that 20% of anything you do will yield 80% of the desired result. And the flip side is also true. If you're not focused, 80% of your time will only produce 20% of the result. People, if you're not familiar with this, you're probably like, wait a minute, this just can't be true. This can't be right, but let's keep going. So another way I always say 80-20 and define it is always only a few things matter, because that sticks with people kind of more in their limbic brain. But it's also, how do I simplify? How do I say no more than I say yes? And I call it the big small, because your least amount of effort is going to create these big results.
And I really want to let's just dive into this thing, because it is a little complicated for people to wrap their brain around. Wait a second, 20% of my efforts is going to give me 80% of the results. Logically, it doesn't make sense. But what we're talking about is that there are certain activities that produce a lot more. And if you say yes to those and no to the ones that produce a lot less, you end up achieving a lot more in everything, whether it's your fitness, your health, your relationships, your career, your business. It's everywhere. How do we look at all the stuff we're doing and say, what are the 20%ers? What are the ones that really matter? I love that line, only a few things matter. Because if we can wrap our brain around that and look at only a few things matter in my diet, only a few things matter in my business, only a few things matter in my friendships, only a few things matter in everything, and focus on there, then it becomes a little easier to understand that 20% of your efforts are going to yield 80% of the results. Right?
Exactly. Right. And Ridgey, what do I say to you all the time when we're working on things? What's your 20%?
Yeah.
All the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to, again, get distracted, looking over here, this shiny thing. It's like, wait, is this in your 20%? And if it's not, get your 20% done before you do something else. And we'll get more into that.
Yeah, let's keep going. This is fascinating stuff. So, all right, so the next thing is, how can you start to live the 80-20 life? So talk to us.
Right. All right. So the first point is really the most important, and it's literally, I'll call it my secret weapon. Whatever you're doing, and I put a bunch of things here, but it's literally anything you're doing. The 80-20 rule means that only two of 10 actions will yield more than the other 8 put together. So think of the compounding effect of that. If I have 10 things to do and 2 of those are going to give me that 80%. And when you see 80%, think of it, you're in the red zone, you're ready to score, you're ready to go. You see what you have to do to get there. That is my secret. That's how I know. And it's proven out because I was probably doing a bunch of the other 8 things before and not focused on the right 2 or 3 things. It doesn't have to be two or three, it could be less or more. And the other thing I want to point out is 80-20 doesn't always equal 100. If you do some of these calculations, it could be 20% of your effort creates 90% of the outcome. It's just, again, there's different ways to measure this, and I won't go into the technical aspects. But so, and the other things, I love these sayings. The 2 critical actions are called or considered the vital few. The rest are called the trivial many. Again, those are so powerful. And I'm using these from excerpts from different books of things. I've not coined these, and I'm not taking credit for them, but they just ring so true in terms of what are your vital few things in your relationships? What are the trivial many things in relationships? What do you want to do in your relationships? Just those couple things that are going to make your relationships with your spouse, with your kids, with your grandkids, colleagues, to make those the best they can be. So the other really great thing that I've benefited, and I know you have too, Ridgely, is 80-20 really helps you identify where you spend your time and energy, the majority of your time and energy. Man, it's so easy just to kind of like look at social media or watch TV, and that's okay too. But I'm going to go through some things later that I think will show everybody if they love to do those things, great. But it doesn't have to take up too much of your day or sacrifice other things to do those things. So I will say, though, that this is not just some whim that you say, oh, what's my 20% or what are my two things? You really need to focus. You really need to think about these things. So I always say, for anything, again, for your company, for a project, a task, anything you're doing, spend upfront time thinking. That time thinking, that valuable time thinking about what are the few things. Think about your result. What do you want your result to be? And then what are the few things that are going to accelerate or allow you to get to that result much faster and basically with less effort? That's part of this as well, is that you have to focus. And then here's my simple formula. Purpose plus priority equal productivity. And I'll say too, from a purpose standpoint, what are you good at? What do you love? What's your why? What's your mind type? What do you stand for? All these things can really come together in 80-20 to think about what you focus on for that critical 20%.
You know, I love the saying, the vital few and the trivial many. I love the concept of the trivial many, because if you think about our lives and how precious it is, and as you said earlier, how time is such an incredible commodity and it's finite, how many of us, I mean, all of us are guilty to some level, spend time on the trivial many. Oh my gosh, it's like, pick what is your trivial many. I know I have to do when I'm working, because I spend a lot of focus time in my office, I have to get a pattern interrupt. But if I think about what is my trivial many, it's almost always going to ESPN.com to see what's happening in the world of sports. And I think, wait a second, that's okay for a minute, but it better not be taken up that I'm reading 17 articles in a row trying to get to the bottom of something, because it's part of the trivial many as opposed to the vital few that are going to move the needle. It's going to move the needle in my business, in my company, in whatever.
Exactly.
So critical.
And I think the trivial many could be so many things. You could define it. And if it's for you, it's ESPN. But all I can say is get your 20% done before you work on the 80%.
Yeah. And I know one of the things that you've said that's almost a little controversial comes up right here. Most things don't matter at all.
Yes, that's what I said. So let me start off with a quote, because I'm a big also student of the Stoics and understanding these principles. But Marcus Aurelius said, most of what we say and do is not essential. If you can eliminate it, you'll have more time and more tranquility. Ask yourself at this very moment, is this necessary? How does that ring true, Ridge?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's almost impossible to comprehend. And I think it's almost intimidating to actually take a real self-inventory of each day or every day or on a weekly basis or whatever, and ask yourself, how many essential things did you do? And how many non-essential things did you do? Almost a little frightening. It's kind of like, the reason I love the 80-20 rule is because it's saying, here's a principle by which you can live your life. No one is perfect. No one's going to get it right all the time. But if you ask yourself, what are the vital few? Let's try to eliminate some of the trivial many. What are the essential things? Let's try to eliminate some of the non-essential ones. Obviously, you're going to do a lot more in terms of accomplishing your goals and dreams, which is the theme of this month.
That rings so true, all of that, because a lot of people, again, this is about goals and dreams. And I talk to so many people through my businesses and relationships and friends. And this is a funny time of year. As far as, okay, how do I reset? What do I do? There's so much to do. It's January 1st. You know, I got to lay all this out. And, you know, people, the biggest thing is people want to lose weight or, you know, I got to, you know, all these projects, all these goals. What I find a lot are people making way too many goals.
Mhm.
because goals are something in the future. And when you set that goal, it's so far out. Sometimes it's like, well, how do I get there? And for me,
Mhm.
it's about doing small things every day to reach those goals, which could also be the 20%. So
Mhm.
whether you have 3 or 4 goals for the new year or 10, I would just encourage you to look at each of them and start as we go through this, start looking at what are the vital few things that are going to allow you to achieve that goal for you to get that result. So that would be my wish for everybody, because it's important.
Yeah, for sure.
Because again, goals are so far out, and sometimes when you reach your goal, it's like, okay, I reached that. Now what? Right?
Mhm.
But,
Mhm.
so anyway, I know this. I don't want to be repetitive, but in most cases, 80% of what we do towards anything really doesn't matter. It falls in that trivial mini. And I know people are like, wait, are you saying I'm wasting time? Are you saying I don't know what I'm doing? Of course not. All I'm saying is that if you take inventory, if you look at these things, you might say, there's something here. He may be right. Or I might have another way to look at getting things done. Um, and so what I realized when I started applying this, you start to realize what you love to do. You then it's the formula I talked about earlier. Um, Priority, purpose, productivity. Purpose is so important, and I know Ridge, you as the top groove guy for this. I mean, it's everything. So for
Mhm.
me, I realized in my business, in my relationships, in everything I do in those facets, what do I love about those? Because the 20% of that, I was happy. I love
Mhm.
doing it. And when you love doing something, guess what? You're going to be more productive. You're going to be like, I'm loving this. I won't get into it now, but there's a few things I love to do that, because I'm a geek, that I have more time to look at now and do. So
Mhm.
the other the other point to this, and it doesn't necessarily apply exactly to 80/20. I've really thought about procrastination, because everybody procrastinates. Okay, I'm putting this off. I really, okay, I know I've got to get to that. What I really believe procrastination is, you really don't want to do it in the first place, or you're not good at it. And so I think for me, there's certain things I don't like to do, but I really apply 80/20 when I don't want to do something. And I'm like, darn it, what's this thing I'm trying to get done? And what are the few things I can do to just get it done and get it over with? And
Mhm.
it works.
Mhm.
I mean, because it's not all just what you love to do, because it's life and there's all these things that are coming at you. But
Mhm.
the other thing I always say is, ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now advancing the outcome?
And
That's
that applies to everything, right? I mean, advancing the outcome, whether it's on your health, whether it's your business, whether it's your relationship, whether it's whatever, so that you, in other words, it's like a philosophy almost. Let me ask myself the question: is
right.
this part of the vital few? Is this essential? Is this one of the 20? Right?
You could come up with, I mean, I should do this. I mean, you could come up with some stickies and put them places, for you to think about these things. But there's just a few of these questions to kind of keep you on course and keep you going in the direction you want. Because when you start to apply this and then you get it, there's so much power, and it's very liberating, because it's like, I mean, Rizzo, you're honestly one of the hardest working people I've ever met. I mean, you just go hard. And I used to have a sign on my desk, a plaque, work till it's done. And
Mhm.
I get that. Um, and you can do that and be satisfied with that, or there's these different ways that we're talking about that just kind of soften it a bit and make life a little bit more pleasant.
Well, no, you also talk about focus on the outcomes you want. So let's walk
Yeah.
through this real quick. What do you exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I think, like any principle, concept, new way of thinking, which I think this is, it it it, it starts with making some changes and recognizing yourself and recognizing your habits. And I think for me, habits, I've really worked on things over the years, and 80/20's helped me immensely. But for me, I always think about my self-awareness and just being honest with myself. I mean, our 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 conscious mind is really being driven by our subconscious mind, and all of the experiences and all the things that have happened to us really guide and create a lens that we look through for everything we do. And for so many things in my life, you want to start something or you want to do something, and it's harder, or you think, oh, this is going to be harder than I thought. But this just does take a little bit of a shift around giving it a try and knowing that this could really be a game changer for you. So part of that is, I used to be a multitasker. And all I can say is now, if you're a multitasker, how's that working for you? Because if you're a multitasker, kind of, to me, it's like everything's equal. There's these 20 things or even 10 things, and you're going back and forth and doing this and that. To me, it's a big mistake in learning to simplify and apply the 80/20. So you have to step back from, if you're doing 10 things, multitasking, look at those 10 things and say, what is, if they're different, there could be various projects or things that are going on. You even have to prioritize which project is more important, or in a lot of cases, being successful in one project in a business will affect and help other projects that you're working on. So again, it's just that simplifying approach to look at how to take more off your plate.
I love the part where he says here, spend focused, quiet time thinking about the few things that will make anything successful. I just think that is so important. Before you dive in and just start going at it, spend some time thinking about what's going to make it successful. And because if you know what, as this kid goes on to say, if you know what results you want, you can find super productive ways to get there. Is this top 20%, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and that last point, this really helped me. It was crazy, actually. By narrowing my interests or narrowing what I was focusing on, we deepen and intensify those things. It's enriching in so many ways, whether it's in our social time, or what our interests are, even for hobbies and interests. This is powerful for me. For me, realizing a long time ago that I needed to get healthy, and then applying 80/20, because it was when I was fat and unhealthy. It became so fun because I started seeing results. Well, that's for another time, but that's just for even a hobby. If you're a musician or you're a writer, these things are just powerful, because the more time you spend doing what you love, those are your 20. Love equals 20%.
And one of the principles that you also get into is kind of the flip side of this, that one of the side benefits, which is trying harder doesn't work, trying less. Now, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So I'll just, we can all read the screen, but I'm having trouble writing. I'll try harder. I can't get into shape. I'll just try harder. I'm not getting enough work done. I'll try harder. I call that making stuck worse, because if you just keep trying harder with anything in life it's like banging your head up against the wall. Sometimes when you just get frustrated, you're really not thinking that clear, or because you're stressed out, you're under a deadline. If you're writing, you have to get something done. If you're work, you got to get something done, and you get stuck. And the more stuck you get, the harder it is to focus, the harder it is to just break free from that. So that's why I say trying less. Think of how hard we all tried to do all this stuff. And I realized some people can make it work. Originally, you make it work. But you're an 80/20 guy too, but you can do that because you're just like that. But for me, I can't. So I trying less. I try to do more with less. I try to get more done with less. I try to do everything with less. So I hope that resonates, because being stuck stinks.
And I think what you're really saying again is once again, step back, reassess the task, and think about the most important steps, the 20%, the 2 or 3 things, not the 10 or the 20. Meaning, wait a second, if you just take inventory, back off before you jump into the 10, what are the 2, right? It really is almost a way of living, a way of approaching life, if you will.
For everything, even when you're stuck, if you can just, again, step back, spend that quiet focus time. Why am I stuck? What are the things I'm trying to get done? Write them out. And then again, look at that result you're trying to look at. If you're writing, you've got to finish a chapter. If you're getting in shape, you want to lose weight or get fit. If you're working, it's a project or a task or whatever. What's the result you're looking for? And then really spend that time, find those 2 or 3 things. And that's all that matters to get you that 80%. And once you see that 80%, you're there.
And one of the ways that I know you teach this is by thinking of 80-20 as yes or no. So
yes. Right. So yes and no are so fundamental. I was with my 3.5-year-old grandson all day yesterday, and no was the prevalent word.
Yeah.
So
and no was the prevalent word, because otherwise he's going to kill himself.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So look, to me, this is so clear. We live in the age of distraction. Never have distractions been so in our face. Everything's ringing, everything's going off, TVs are on. So we have so much competing for our time. And I really ask myself sometimes, it's a wonder how anybody, even me, get anything done with all this. So this is where yes and no comes in. How many times do people come up to ask you to do things? How many times do you say yes? Now let me ask you a question. If what somebody asks you to do is a couple weeks out or a month out, as you get closer to that commitment that you said yes to, how many times are you thinking, why did I say yes? Why am I dreading this? I don't want to get on that plane. I don't want to spend my time on this. And then when you're saying yes, how many other things could you have been doing that really were important to you? And it's really hard. It's really hard to say no. Part of my whole makeup is contribute and trust. And so that makes it really hard for whatever it is to say no. I've gotten really good at it in a very nice way. It's never like, it's more like, it's never rude or anything bad, but
at the end of the day, the principle's there, right? Means saying no over and over and over and over and over and over to the unimportant things that fly in our direction, which happens to all of us all the time.
Right. So for me, again, we need to stay focused on saying yes to, I'll just say, only a few things. Only a few things matter, a few things that truly matter, because that comes back to time. Again, when you say yes and you're sitting in that meeting a month later, you're like, what am I doing here? Why did I do this? So, or whatever. It makes me think too, from a business standpoint, how I really applied this and how I still do. Actually, I'm traveling soon and going to be in like 3 days of meetings. But when I'm invited to a meeting, and being the CEO of different companies and different things, first thing I do when I'm invited to a meeting that I say yes to is like, why are we meeting? What are we trying to get done here? How long is this going to take? Does everybody, if there's 10 people in this meeting, why are 10 people in this meeting? Why aren't 2 or 3 people in this meeting? And people are like, well, I don't know. Because again, think of the efficiency of that. In a meeting.
And I love that last point. Instead of to-do lists, we need to make not to-do lists, right?
Yes.
In other words, things that are non-essential, get them off the docket is what you're saying.
Right. Another way I think of this, and it's a bit out there, I'll say, but it's more about unlearning and learning. Because we all
unlearning to say yes. And learning to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
I know one of the things you gave us here, which I really like, is these examples. And it's kind of to drive it home. It really, 20% of customers provide 80% of the revenue. Wow, maybe I should spend more time on those guys. And the
Exactly.
second one here, when I saw this, I would just start cracking up. You wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. It's so true. Everybody's got their favorite pants, their favorite
Yep.
shirt, their favorite jacket. We call them the go-tos, right? The go-to.
Easy. Yeah, you don't have to think about it. You just
Mhm.
but you're not thinking about it. You're just putting on your clothes, but it's so true. I know it's true for me. It probably is like 10%, 80, 90, 80% of the time or something like that. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I think, the nutrition side, clearly 20% of the food, the right food provides 80% of your nutrition, or you could say that for 20% of what you eat provides 80% of your weight loss. Um,
Mhm.
this is really true. 80% of the output from an organization comes from 20% of the team, I would say. And how I
Mhm.
really like to look at that is that, I mean, there are rainmakers, there are these high producers in any company. These are, more bigger companies, not a company with 2 or 3 or 10 people. But I always want to say that the other support team are so vital to everything, to support these
Mhm.
other people that are really making things happen. Everybody's important. And so, and then this is so true. I thought of this one as I was finishing this up. 20% of TV we watch, or shows basically, are watched 80% of the time. And it's so funny. My kids are always saying, "Hey, Dad, did you see this on Netflix? Did you see this on Hulu? Did you see this on HBO Plus?" I mean, there's all this stuff. There's hundreds of new shows, and I'm like, nope, 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 no, I have no idea. So,
Mhm.
but
And I know you said one thing that goes along with the 80-20 is the concept of one decision. And talk to us a little bit about this as we're getting close to wrapping up here.
yeah, this is a bit of a pivot, but I really wanted to introduce it as an idea and something to think about. I don't want it to seem radical, but how one decision could remove hundreds of future decisions. And it's really a compliment to 80-20. I mean, if you can put these together, it can really be powerful. So here's my example. 5 years ago, I heard about the keto diet and some other things. So I started the ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting. And so based on this, and I still do it, I only have 12 meals per week. And 6 of those are my lunch shake, which are great. I put all kinds of veggies and everything in them. But contrast that to most people have at least 20 meals per week or more. So what has this one decision done for me? I only eat twice a day, and I don't spend time thinking about food, making food, shopping for food, or really that much time eating food. Even though I love food, we all love food. I save at least 10 hours a week because of the efficiencies from food. So it gives me more time to focus on what I love to do. Two other things that I do to think about for how one decision affects hundreds. On Tuesdays, whenever I can, it's not every Tuesday because of life, I call it No Talking Tuesday. If I have calls, I like to listen. If I don't have calls, I like to read. And for me, I do a tremendous amount of study, research on longevity and health. The other thing I do is that, so I think that in itself, if I'm not talking, that's giving me more time. It's removing other things that I know I'm not going to do on a Tuesday. The other thing I do is during the week, I either wear a black t-shirt or a black polo and my jeans. If I'm going to a meeting, I've got a black dress shirt on, I've got my jeans on. That is super simple. And that's why I say I'm probably 10%. what I,
On your clothes? Yeah.
what I is like 90+%. So again, just some things to think about around applying 80-20 around these things. It's just more to provoke some thought.
Yeah. And you said it's changed your life.
Completely. So I won't get into my story, but I'm a CEO. I built a bunch of pretty big companies. And when I really got to the point of needing some change because there was some great personal cost, the company was about 1,600 people. We were doing about $300 million in revenue, international company. That's where I was starting to just kind of break, crack, and figure out, it's like, stressed out, overweight, not happy. this is where I really, this is when I read that book and began to apply all these things that we've talked about. And the shift has been amazing, and it's affected every aspect of my life in such a positive way. Now I don't even have to think about it. It's my lifestyle. It's just how I do everything. It's become just part of my DNA. So, but I'll say too, today I'm in my 60s, but today I'm busier than ever with a lot of projects and a lot of responsibilities. However, I have more time than I've ever had to do whatever I want now in terms of my free time, my kids, getting away with them for vacations, the studying I love to do, my research I love to do on longevity and health. It's freeing and liberating.
And I think that's such a huge thing for everybody. We all want more time to do the things that we love. And what a great way to do that is to apply the 80-20. And just as we're wrapping up here, just want to kind of like give people some ways that they can get started on the 80-20 life. What's that look like? How do you get that philosophy ingrained so that you begin to apply it?
Absolutely. I think the easiest thing is just step back from your daily routines, and whether it's working out, kids, whatever it is, just list those things you do in that particular activity. Doesn't matter how many there are, but then again, spend that time thinking about those 2 or 3 things that would really help accelerate the results you're looking for. I mean, that's how I started. You got to kind of step into this thing. And then for health and fitness, just think about and research what foods and or exercises would be that powerful 20%. So I said it earlier that 20% of the right food can be responsible for 80% of your weight loss. Same with exercise. When it comes to your finances, remember that 20% of your investments typically yield 80% of the lift in your assets. So really know what's happening there. And again, I hope these help. I wouldn't call it an in-depth masterclass. This is kind of a 101 beginning of 80-20.
And I love this. You put in one extra slide here, almost like the reminder of everything we talked about, which was, here we go, one critical final thought, as if we haven't said it enough times already, right? 80% of things you do will give you only 20% of the results. Pay close attention to how you spend your time, your energy, your resources, your life, right?
Is what I'm doing really, do I love what I'm doing? And is this making an impact on the result I'm looking for? And that's a great way to finish it out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and just say a tiny bit more about this. Just remind everybody that really only a few things matter. I mean, we're getting to that place where we're about to give everybody a gift that you're giving them, which is going to be amazing. Is it like, should people be literally putting this on their door, on their wall, on their, how do they,
well,
what do they need to do to remind themselves?
Yeah, I think when you said, what does that really mean? Only a few things matter. It just goes back to what you love to do, the impact you're trying to make, and that if you're trying to do everything, stuff's going to fall through the cracks. If you're juggling, if you drop one ball, you probably drop them all. And so all I would say was really think about only a few things matter, how that could affect your life. And I would just encourage you to give this a try, because it's powerful. And again, people talk about 80-20 all the time. You could look online, the rule of 80-20, and literally, honestly, it's almost all quotes from the book I mentioned. I've spent time really going through and understanding how to apply these things in different ways, and different ways to think about them, like how one thing can remove 100. So all I would ask you to do is consider these things, because I really believe that they can have a huge impact on your dreams and goals for 2022 and beyond.
So I happen to be very privileged to have helped made a small contribution to the gift that you're about to give to everybody. and using your background as a CEO and knowing all the principles that apply to business that make things work, then learning and honing in on the 20% of the things that yield the maximum result, you went and put together a program that is called Build Your Body Like a Business. And that comes from your background in running multi-hundred-million-dollar companies, that suddenly you got this idea. Tell us just a little bit about this as we're wrapping up, because right below here is a button where you can go and get this program absolutely free to learn the principles that you're talking about, the 80-20, when it comes to your physique, your health, and your fitness.
Right. So about 10 years ago, as I've talked about some of these things and applying 80-20, and I was overweight and not healthy. So I was traveling 150,000 miles a year. I was stressed out. I was busy, going a lot of different ways on prescription meds. And I really, in probably late 40s, thought, okay, time out. If I don't do something now, it's not going to get any better. And at least I had that epiphany that said, wait, if I don't do something now, I'm going to be really unhealthy and keep gaining weight. I'm going to keep taking meds, all the things that none of us want to do. So like everybody, I tried different diet plans. I went online, I checked things out, and I had a little bit of result, but it really wasn't long-term. I didn't feel like it was sustainable. I didn't feel like I was making a change in my lifestyle. So literally I started thinking, what can I do? And it popped into my head that, wait, I'm a business guy. What if I used tools and principles and processes that I use to map out building companies, execute and build companies, operationalize companies? What if I use those same tools and principles for my health and fitness? So I was the ultimate experience. So I put all these things together, all these forms, all these tools, all these things that I knew about as a business guy, and I applied them to my health and fitness. So over 10 years later, I've lost 30 pounds. I'm off all my meds. I'm in the best shape of my life. I have 11% body fat. My telomere age is 46. So it was almost like, oh my goodness, this was so powerful. So then I started talking about how can I help people? How can I help business people that, so I basically say, my story is your story. Your story is my story. I relate to you. You can relate to me because we're all doing this or have done it. And so if you can think about, as a business person, entrepreneur, wherever you are, that if you understand business principles, and if you can see those things applying to getting healthy, getting fit, losing weight, getting in shape, things like setting strategic goals, things like implementing tactics and KPIs around your health, things like having a dashboard that you can monitor your tactics and KPIs on a weekly basis using the great tool of red, yellow, green, which we all use in business. So I've taken all these basic principles and I put them into steps, processes, and ways to apply to get healthy and fit. And I've worked with a bunch of people on the side before I said, this is a way to really help people. As I started getting healthier, I started realizing and seeing so many people that were unhealthy. The statistics of our country of obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease are frightening. They're truly frightening. So what I want to do through this, number one, is I want to help people.
Right. And so for everybody that's watching, again, click on the button below, go to Build Your Body Like a Business, check out what Mike has put together as a gift for the entire Groove community, and find out for yourself what this means. Again, find out for yourself what the 80-20 rule can look like when it comes to your health, your wellness, and your fitness by applying the principles in Build Your Body Like a Business. Mike, I just want to say thank you so very much, man. From the entire Groove community, we appreciate you, what you've done. We all do love that idea if we want to emulate and embody some of the principles that can move us forward using the 80-20 rule. Highly recommend, Groovesters, that you watch this multiple times, take your notes, and then go apply the principles we talked about here. Any final words, Mike?
I just want to say thank you to you, Ridgely, and to the community for allowing me to be with you today. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to, I think, talk about something that is powerful, and I think it can really, really help change lives.
Well, thanks a lot, Mike. Again, from all the Groovesters out there, Groove community, go check out Build Your Body Like a Business. You're going to love it. Free gift from Mike. By the way, there's some tools that he also offers that you can also make the decision if they're the right thing for you, and even some high-level coaching and other stuff. All that is up to you. I will see you guys out there in Groove Land. We'll see you next week. Obviously, got some more really exciting content coming your way. Go to groovegrowth.com anytime you want and check it all out. Go to the Groove How. You'll see it through the newsletter. You'll get all kinds of ways to tap into this. Make sure you go check out Build Your Body Like a Business. And that is it. This is Ridgely, your Groove Growth guy, and we are out.